is the survey? In a nutshell, what is this survey all about?
The survey gives a chance for people to give their opinions and express their satisfaction or otherwise about different aspects to do with highways. And that's not just roads. It's not just about getting from A to B and cars. It also includes footpaths and cycleways as well. So we're not just thinking about roads and cars. It's a bit broader than that. And it's everything from, about maintenance. It cuts across transport and perhaps elements that you'd like to see and how well they're working.
And to what degree does this link up with plans that are already in train for government, things like the active travel strategy?
It will be important because we need to find out how that's going to be brought about on Ireland, so we can get some views from people about perhaps issues to do with walking to school would be a good example, or cycling, using alternative ways for cycling or walking to get to work or their normal journeys instead of driving. And that's something in particular I'd like to see picked up from this survey, so that we can find out how we can really meet the needs for people in that way.
Now, wouldn't the cost of keeping everyone happy be incredibly prohibitive?
Well, the idea is that from the survey, which will benchmark against areas in the UK, will be that it will help give a steer for future planning, for priorities and how resources can be allocated. Because you're quite right, everybody would like everything to be, perfect when it comes to highways. And what we need to do is be able to plan for the future and prioritise and think about things like active travel and, perhaps identify the issues that are most pressing.
Now, it is a UK survey. It's something that councils across the regions across the UK have been taking part in for about 10 years now. Why a UK survey? Because there are elements in it which don't necessarily relate to the Isle of Man. Wouldn't it have been better to have something that was tailored specifically for the Isle of Man?
Well, the benefit is, and the main thing is, that it's an independent survey, and by fitting in with this survey and this process that's already used by local authorities in the UK, it does allow us to be benchmarked. So although perhaps some of the particular wording might not be exactly as we would expect to see it termed if we were just doing it perhaps solely on the Isle of Man, it is the best way and it's the only way to be able to compare what we have over here, to see about benchmarking, and for it to be fully independent as well.
There are some words in it which may be a little confusing. For instance, the reference to council.
Yes.
Particularly for people in Douglas where there is a council.
Yes, and I think that, with the information that's provided with the survey, for if you are one of the people that gets the chance to respond, and I hope that people will if they get that chance, I think it'll become clear as to what is required from the actual individual questions and the prompts from that, because you're going to be answering it as an Isle of Man resident, thinking about the Isle of Man roads, footpaths and cycle paths.
And why in particular this year? I mean, it has been running in the UK for a decade now, so why has the Isle of Man decided to join this year?
I think there is a bit of a desire to sort of change really how we think about highways, and to make sure that we have a longer term view, and that we're not just thinking about just roads and cars, but we're thinking really about the sense of space in the areas where we all make our ordinary journeys. So I think it just reflects that desire to have that engagement and to be able to respond and allocate resources in the best way.
And in terms of the overall cost, I mean, the basic cost of taking part in the survey for the 12-page survey, which is what the Isle of Man has gone for, is £9,200. Is that the cost of it to the Isle of Man, or were there additional costs on top?
No, that is the cost, and I think it's fair to flag that there is a incentive. There's a prize for that. If you may be selected if you take part in the survey, and that is not that's not something that's provided by Isle of Man government or the department. That is by the organisers, and that's something that people in the UK for their particular areas would get a chance to as well.
Would it have been cheaper to do this sort of survey in-house and tailor it specifically to the Isle of Man rather than getting a UK company to sort of tag us on to a UK survey?
I don't think then you would have got the benefit of the benchmarking or the independence. So we do have ways of people, putting across their views about different aspects of roads and highways anyway. But if you actually, look at the survey, it's very detailed, it's very comprehensive, it's done in a very specific way that I think it requires a specialism and an independent organisation to do that.